Welcome, friends. Welcome to another Sunday morning where we do recipes out of old cookbooks. And so far, we've been really sort of concentrating on those Depression years, 1928 to 1938. And so today we're going to do another recipe out of A Guide to Good Cooking by the Five Roses Flour Company. And we're going to make something called country beans. Now, before I get into the recipe, I think it's funny. I've done a couple of recipes out of this book over the last couple of weeks. And a lot of Canadians have gotten in touch with me and said, oh no, we didn't have the Five Roses book because our family only used Purity flour. So we had the Purity flour cookbooks. And other people saying, oh no, we didn't use either of those because my grandmother wanted to use Robin Hood. So we only used the Robin Hood cookbooks. We're going to get to those. We're going to sort of, over the next couple of months, break out of the Depression era and look at cookbooks for a little bit wider time period. Anyway, today's recipe kind of excites me. So it is in this cookbook, but it doesn't appear in the next version from 1938, which is this red one. Our copy's a little bit ragged. It's not in there. And I look at this recipe as not a recipe at all. It is a very basic vegetable dish that sort of, to me, delineates the difference between those people who lived in the cities and could not or didn't know how to grow their own vegetables, and those people that lived in rural areas, or we don't even live in a rural area, we're in the suburbs, but we still have a garden, who could grow their own food and also knew how to can to preserve for the winter. So everything here in front of me, except for the salt and pepper, Julie and I grew or made ourselves. So this is our own home-cured bacon, and you can find that recipe elsewhere on our channel. And I'm just going to fry this off. You want to brown it and render out the fat. Okay, so that's looking good. Now we're just going to take this bacon. Now we just want to take the bacon out. We want to leave the grease behind in the pan. Because next in, we're going to fry these onions in the bacon grease. And these are onions from our garden. So, you know, I just go right out and pick one. And onions were the kind of thing that they were always cheap, whether you grew them or not. And they're one of those crops that you could put in the root cellar and you could have it all winter until next year's crop was ready. So onions were definitely one of those things that you would eat all the time. So we just fry these onions until they're translucent, and they're looking pretty good. So next in are these tomatoes. And so these are tomatoes that we grew in our garden last summer and then canned last fall. So it calls for 1 cup of canned tomatoes. This is 2 cups worth, so I'm going to put about half in. Growing up, one of the things that we had all the time was a can or a jar of our own canned tomatoes. And my mom would cook it, and she would just toss in stale bread. And it was something that she ate as a child that my grandmother ate during the Depression. And it was, you know, I think back on it and I think it was just so simple, but yet I love it, and I still love it. And today, if I've got some stale bread, I put it in the tomatoes. It's something that I absolutely love as a side dish or just as lunch. It's better than soup to me, anyway. So we just cook this now, and we cook it down just a little bit. Next in, it calls for a can of string beans. 1 tin of stringless beans. Now, it would be too easy to assume that this would be a can of string beans that you would buy at a grocery store. For a lot of people, it would be beans that they canned themselves from last summer. And certainly that's something that we would do, because 9 months of the year, you couldn't get fresh beans. But when fresh beans are in season, like they are right now, and I can just walk out to my garden and pick them, that's what I did. So I'm going to use fresh beans, but certainly canned beans from last summer would have been perfect. So they go in, and they just get cooked in the tomato sauce. Now I'm going to put a lid on to let the beans steam. Because I'm using fresh beans, they need to be steamed a little bit. If you're using canned beans, of course, you just need to heat them through. Now the recipe does say that you can use fresh beans, but it goes on to talk about how you should cook them ahead of time. And if you go farther into the book, it advocates boiling beans for 20 to 30 minutes until they're tender. And I gotta tell you, 20 minutes of boiling beans, fresh green string beans, they'd just be mush, and I can't do that. So I'm going to let them steam for probably 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and they should be the way that I like them. little bit of pepper on top. And sprinkle on the bacon. A little bit more bacon, Jules.
This is the best part about summer.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Fresh, fresh, fresh. Everything tastes great.
fresh beans from the garden, tomatoes that we put down from our garden. It's going to be drippy. Yeah. There's nothing better than that.
No, I appreciate the bacon in it.
Yeah.
I'm curious, was it in the original recipe or is this a, okay.
No, it was in the recipe.
Or is this a Glenn wants to add bacon moment?
Nope, the bacon was in there so that you fried off the onion in the bacon grease.
Okay.
And it just made everything. So, salt and
think
pepper
you
to
could-
taste.
I think you could eat this cold or hot almost.
Yeah.
If it on like a stinking hot day, you could have it like a cooler.
You could put that. You could chill that and take it to a picnic as a cold salad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or serve it at a barbecue as a cold salad.
Or
Definitely.
a cold side to just.
Yeah. Definitely for summertime, and then in the wintertime, you could use everything canned because you would can your own beans. You would.
Yeah, onions are
Yeah.
easily
Yeah.
stored.
So this I think is a wonderful recipe.
I keep wanting to take
Yeah.
more.
No. Have more.
I know,
have
but
more.
I'm gonna make a mess.
And have some bread, like a really nice loaf of your grandmother's crusty bread, farm bread, and dip it in the tomato sauce to sop up the extra sauce. Just absolutely wonderful. So I think this is a recipe that even though it's in a Depression era cookbook, and it doesn't appear in any of the later cookbooks. So by the time you get to the 1938 version or
Not
the
in those?
1950
Okay.
version or the 1970 version, it's not in there. It's done. It's gone. And I don't know if that's something because the recipe is forgotten because it is so plain, or the recipe doesn't need to be in a book anymore because people
Everybody knows it?
just make it. Yeah.
That's part of it, right?
Yeah.
That's everybody just knows. What do you need to write it down for?
So give it a try. Find some fresh beans. Get some canned tomatoes. And these are stewed tomatoes, so they were stewed with onion and celery and pepper. And so it's not just a canned tomato, it's a stewed canned tomato. Absolutely fantastic. Thanks for stopping by.
I just keep looking around in a circle for some reason.
See you again soon. Might be all the fruit flies. The fruit flies in here today were driving me nuts.